All right, we are live. Welcome, everybody. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Happy Friday. Let me get this adjusted a little bit. There we go. That looks good. So welcome, everybody. If you're new to the channel, I am Chris with Monsters Under Our Bed. We cover true crime mystery to the missing. Before we get into Sebastian Rogers' case, we always like to give back by featuring the missing. Today we have Amy Martinez. Just 17 years old, went missing on August 30th, so it looks like just over a week now. Missing out of New Orleans, Louisiana. There's not much more information than that. If you do have any information, unfortunately I don't have a phone number here, but you just call your local PD. Again, this is Amy Martinez, missing out of New Orleans, Louisiana. Missing 1 week, just 17 years old. All right. Huge shout out to everybody. Thank you guys so much for the love and support. As most of you guys know, we've been covering this case for about 3 weeks now, really focusing on the lights and the little evidence that we have. And slowly, every time we examine stuff, it seems like we kind of discover new things. Of course, from doing my work and the overlays, kind of got the attention of some of the locals that live in that neighborhood. Were impressed with my work and reached out to me to kind of guide me in the right direction, and then also, give me some information. And of course, the information that I'm allowed to share, I share with you guys. Excuse me. And so yeah, we're just over 6 months since this poor guy went missing. Missing February 26th. Sebastian Rogers. And oops, I'm just trying to get that. And a lot's been going on since he went missing. And some huge news. Obviously, Dog the Bounty Hunter has gotten involved. And there's actually a couple of clips that I've got that I'm going to play before we get into the lights and everything. But yeah, we got a great show for you guys, so we'll play that because the reward has gone up, which I think is amazing. And then there's some things that I wanted to talk about at the beginning about what Dog says, and I've seen some people play his clip and then talk about it, and they had some issues, and I just want to put my 2 cents in there. So let's see what Dog the Bounty Hunter has to say.
All hoping for the safe return of Sebastian Rogers.
So let me blow this up here. All right, let's get going. And if you guys can, please hit that like button. We got a great show for you guys. Tons to look at. But let's see what is going on in the news with the Rogers case.
And if you have forgotten Sebastian, and I hope you have not, we are past the 6-month mark from the night that he went to bed back in February, but was gone by morning. And when I say gone, I mean gone. No notes, no leads. Sebastian's clothes, even his shoes, were still there. He's 15. He's from the Nashville area, and Sebastian has autism, which does not make the search or the investigation any easier. The Tennessee police and the FBI have been on the case from the start, but so far, nothing. The feds even put up a $50,000 reward for information leading to Sebastian Rogers' return. And now, that reward has doubled to
awesome.
100,000, thanks to America's most famous bounty. How do you even begin?
Well, we began at...
So, obviously, I'm just skipping to certain parts of the news report, but I just want to get to what Dog says, and then we'll talk about that here in just a second.
The very beginning, and because I'm not a real law enforcement officer...
Now, what he's just saying right there is huge, and why I'm excited for him to be joined in this search. Because yes, he is not law enforcement, and that is on purpose.
Sir, I can do a lot of things that law enforcement cannot do.
Yes,
and
he can.
I don't break the law, but I will bend it till its fracturing point. So it's very sad because in the very beginning, I thought Sean may be involved in some kind of disappearance, or I thought the little...
Poor guy says Sean. I think he means Seth. If anybody's wondering who you meant, Sean.
Boy was deceased. Days now into it, I have talked to Sean. I know that he was working. This is his only child. I have 12. I've been through this before one of my daughters were killed, but this is amazing. I know that he had nothing to do with this. This guy can barely even talk without crying. You know, I'm looking at him tonight, and we're both, you know, crybabies. I'm looking at him right there on your show, and I'm like, I just want to start crying. Listen, I'm going to hunt these people down. I think the boy is still alive. I'm telling you right now, Ashley, I think this little boy was stashed somewhere because custody was just going to get very soon, very, very soon. Mr. Rogers was going to get custody of his son. And I think there's so much jealousy. You know the old saying, if you can't have him, if I can't have him, nobody will have him. I think that's exactly what we're seeing here, is a domestic squabble over...
In Chapman, known as Dog, has...
Okay, so I want to pause it there. So I just want to reiterate that on this channel, you know, we're not focusing on Proudfoot or Seth Rogers. We're just focused on the truth, and we're examining the evidence, and wherever that takes us, that's where it takes us. But right now, you know, to me, it would be going back to square one, and everybody is a person of interest, just for the fact of you're going back to square one. But in my opinion, at the very least, I think this is an abduction. Now, whether it's an inside job or an outside job, you know, remains to be seen. I would lean more towards an inside job, just with the information that, you know, that we have and has been shared with me. Most of it I've shared with you, but again, it's I still think definitely it's an abduction, and I hope to God that he's still alive. But let me play this other clip real quick. But I'm so excited that he's getting involved in this, and let me just play this other clip from a different news source.
Stepped in to help Seth.
This is one of the most horrendous cases of missing children that we've ever worked on.
Law enforcement has not said anything criminal happened to Sebastian, but Dog says he wants to find anyone responsible for Sebastian's disappearance.
The bottom line is, if you hurt a child like this, you've got a problem. So that is the main motivation for me to be hunting who did this.
Dog and his team created a new missing persons flyer for Sebastian Rogers. In it, they explain how they're working independently from law enforcement.
So to hear this is, I've seen some people, again, I don't get into the drama. I guess I'm sure most of you guys know that. I am not a drama channel. I stay in my lane. I like that, you know. But once in a while, of course, I'll be watching one video and then it just kind of goes to other people that's pertaining to this case. And I did see a few channels. I'm not going to mention anybody. And I respect their opinion, but they had issues that he wasn't going to be, he's working independently, but that's on purpose. I'm sure they're going to still share stuff, you know, with law enforcement, but they're there, let's say, especially if it's an outside job, and, you know, if it is, there's at least 2 people, 3 people involved, if, you know, the lights and everything line up like they do with how neighbors and everybody, you know, all that scenario supposedly went down. You have at least 2 people, maybe 3 people involved. If it was an outside job, you would think maybe one of those would talk and maybe take the deal and turn on the other 2. You know what I mean? And of course, they're kind of afraid to talk to law enforcement, and maybe, you know, they would feel comfortable more talking to somebody that's not law enforcement. So that's why they're kind of jumping in and doing that, and I like that. I like that idea. He did that in a case that was actually here in Utah. Oh, I forget their names. Shame on me. This is when the Gabby Batitos, the 2 girls that were killed camping, and they thought Brian Laundrie had something to do with it. Oh, I cannot think of the names. Anyway, he got involved and was doing the same thing. And I know he's done that with previous cases as well. But yeah, I like the idea of it myself. And again, I'm sure, of course, you know, anything that's incriminating, you know, would be shared with law enforcement. But he's just trying to get people to share information with him who may otherwise not feel comfortable speaking with law enforcement. That makes sense. I am totally down with that, especially as the reward goes up. You know, maybe somebody wants to do that talking and, you know, kind of lift that weight off their shoulders. It's a lot of money. Yeah, Moab. Yeah, what were their names? You work on so many cases, they all start, kind of
evaluating
blending
the information
together.
collected and following up on new leads.
Kaylin and
they also
Crystal,
say they've added
yeah.
$50,000 more to the reward, making a total of $100,000.
Because that is a lot of money. I don't care if you're rich, that's a lot of money.
Doug tells me he believes that by working with Seth, following up on leads, and an increase in the reward money, they will find the answers they've been looking for.
You can run, but you can't hide who did it. We're going to find out.
In Nashville, Caitlin Quisenberry, News 2.
Yeah, thank you, Joy. And a huge shout out to Joy. My goodness, your video. I know we were kind of probably looking at different things, but your video was so amazing, Joy. And thank you so much. We got another person now helping me out with the lights, and we'll get to that. But so just bear in mind, I always, even though a lot of you have probably seen this show both a bunch of times, at least with me covering this Rogers case and seeing some of the same things, I like to kind of have a narrative, because obviously we're covering the physical evidence that we have, and then I'm kind of sprinkling in the stuff that I hear from the locals, the stuff that I can share. But I like to keep it, in a timeline form instead of just jumping right to what we have. And so, again, we're going to start, obviously, where it all kind of started is me going back. It's kind of wild still even thinking about this. This live video had been out there for 6 months. Well, I kind of jumped in just before the 6-month mark, but over 5 months this live video had been out. And it pretty much was, one bigger YouTuber had done an overlay and kind of went with the garbage truck thing. And that was kind of that. And then it just kind of lay dormant. And so, and I was kind of looking for a case to kind of jump on. And I was kind of worried about the Rogers case because, I know how, it's just gotten, in my opinion, in some ways toxic. And anyway, and we don't do that on this channel. We just like to stick with the facts. But in this case, there's not much. But so it was just the light video. So I'm like, well, I'll see what I come up with.
See that the two lights at the top,
And
which
here
have
it
been
is.
assumed to be floodlights. And using this line, we can determine that those lights cannot be any higher than the hood of that truck. Using this method, we can determine exactly where those lights are coming from.
Working as a team.
So looking at where that truck was parked that night, seen in this overview, photo here.
And this wasn't even all me here. Again, this is actually, now when I mention other channels, keep in mind, I don't, what's the word? Just because I may mention another channel doesn't mean that I represent, their views that they talk about doesn't mean that equals to my views. So just keep that in mind, if I do mention other channels, because I don't have time to follow, what everybody says and does. But, I'm going to give credit where credit's due. And the person that kind of, unintentionally pointed me towards this house was really Slivers on scene. He was just driving through the neighborhood and was talking about these garage lights. And it was like, oh, yeah, that's it. I mean, there's no way these lights can be way up on these hills because of where the truck's sitting. So this truck, what we're looking at, see where these cars are parked at? This is exactly how the cars were parked that night, because we're seeing a helicopter view of the 26. So obviously whatever happened, if it was an abduction, happened at 3 a.m. There's a helicopter flying by, I don't know, afternoon, who knows. But it's the same day that he was abducted, if he was abducted, allegedly. So we can see that all the cars are parked in the right spot. So I knew, we can see the white truck. I knew those headlights could not be much taller than where that truck is sitting. You could see where it's sitting. And to say that those lights are coming up on this hill, there's no way.
You're taking the day of.
Unless there's like a black hole in between the lights in the truck, bending the light, because that does happen in space, but I don't think it's happening here on Earth in this neighborhood. There's no magic black hole that's bending light. These lights are coming across the street from that house.
We can then use a Google Street image and line up approximately where that truck was parked. Notice we add the red line.
Is it silver?
And look at where it takes us.
I always see silver.
There is a house exactly across the street.
It's part of being dyslexic, so... Garbage truck, garage lights, so Have fun with me.
This house is next to the Rogers residence.
But yeah, it was
This home has its
that makes so
garage
much sense.
facing towards the camera. It also has 3 garage doors on it. Guess what? That's right, it has floodlights above each garage door. So here, I am taking a street Google view of the direction
Remember
of the
that huge
camera.
car? Yeah, we'll talk
And
about
then
that,
adding
Sally,
the
for
security
sure.
footage overlaid into the Google image. And notice how the floodlights do line up with the image. But because the footage itself was filmed with a phone.
And it makes sense because, you got this tree here that would probably block, there's quite a few trees here that would probably block. And maybe they just only have 2 floodlights working at that time, They have 3 garages, but maybe only 2 were lit up. Or the tree could be blocking the 3rd one from that angle.
It is a bit shaky and doesn't always line up. But this does give you an example of where everything is taking place. The lights labeled as subject 1 and 2 are moving across the 2 yards.
Thank you so much,
So the
Rose
big question
Bunny.
is, are they flashlights or something else? And where are they coming from exactly, and where are they going to?
So now we're going to get into the narrative and timeline. Now, on today's show, because, I want to kind of get to the lights in the car, but I still want to go over the timeline because, it just helps because there's always new people coming in. I see Mr. or is it Mrs. E? One of them's in here. I saw your channel where you guys took my video. There it is, Mr. E's Crimecast. Yay, we got a live. Hey, likewise, I saw you break down my video a week ago or something like that. That was truly humbling to see and get your thoughts on it. That's amazing. Thank you so much for the shout out, and shout out to them. What a lovely family. Again, I haven't seen much of your show, I'll be honest, because I just busy with what I do, but I did catch the video and live, and that was great to just get your guys' thoughts. So great channel. Happy and honored to have you guys in here. So we're not going to focus on the cameras that went out. We've talked about that before. We're just going to focus really on the lights and the timeline today. But the car allegedly had gone up the street. Now remember, before it was Miss Bobby that came forward and said, that she believed that it kind of stopped near just the intersection here, and then kind of turned down Stafford, and then eventually did what sounded like a 3-point turn. But then I spoke to multiple sources who live in our local, and they had said, well, actually, we believe it actually went all the way down. We don't know how far, but it went down the street and turned around, which is really strange. And then, when I started hearing that at least 2 confirmed reports of, Ring cameras acting up, is a little interesting. Is it a coincidence? I don't think so.
This is the order
that many cameras kind of acting funny around that timeline.
and things allegedly happened on the early morning of the 26th. At around 3 a.m., a suspicious vehicle was spotted by camera and potential witnesses, which they believe looked like a sedan. It traveled up Kellen and turned around. It would then park near the 2 homes towards Stafford Street off Kellen. This next part depends on whether this was an inside job or not. If an outside job had taken place, then at least 2 persons would have exited the car. If it was an inside job, then perhaps 1 person got out while the driver stayed in the car.
So yeah, that's what I wanted to explain, because, I put out a video, and I think I just forgot to put in the audio or something, and I was just rushing to get the video out, because it was I was working on it kind of late in the day, and I didn't want to put it out any later because it would have just flopped. But anyway, I forgot to mention, kind of the 2 scenarios, and people have thought, oh, does that mean that 2 people definitely got out? We don't know. Like I said, it just kind of depends. If it's an outside job, then it would have to be 2 people, right? 2, because we see 2 subjects. If it's an inside job, then you could say that maybe there's a driver and then a passenger who had gotten out, and then if somebody from the home would escort Rogers across. But in either scenario, we would then get this video that comes up, which I overlaid. I thought I sped this up. And, excuse me, it's very interesting that, with this overlay, all these lights, and I cannot tell you what a pain in the butt it was to, as you can see, these are trying to jump around because I've told it many times, somebody was filming with this cell phone because the story goes is basically it came from the homeowner originally. They had sent it off to a friend or a family member like that day that Rogers went missing to say, hey, can you check out the footage and see if you see anything? Because I don't see anything. And then they had actually noticed something. I don't know when, if it was days later or whatever. And then they're the ones that spoke to Nick Barris. And then I don't know if it was from them or Nick Barris himself. Then, went with the cell phone and recorded a little bit of the subjects crossing over. But yeah, it makes a pain in the butt because it zooms in and you've got that going on. So you got these balls kind of bouncing, lights and balls bouncing around. So I'm always having to kind of cut the clip and recenter it. But when you get everything kind of organized, it does react with what's being overlaid. Now, obviously, this is not the perfect overlay because the perfect overlay would be to get a shot from the camera itself from daytime view, right? So the camera that we're looking from that got the security footage, the best thing would be to do is to have a daytime shot from that exact camera and then overlay the lights into it. Obviously, that would be ideal, but unfortunately, we can't do that. So the best thing we can do is kind of light up the garage lights, and then that's kind of our anchor, our base, and then from there we let the lights do what they do. And it's interesting, they kind of react with the environment that's there. So because I know there's people out there that have claimed that they don't believe this is true, and I would love to see anybody that thinks this is wrong and may think they have another overlay that may fit better. I would love to see it, because I'm not perfect. I get things wrong all the time. But in my opinion, this shows two subjects going between the homes, which I think is really huge. And the fact that we don't really see them struggle other than this one part where subject 2 kind of gets about here, is interesting. But again, I mean, lining these up, having this as my anchor, and it's like subject 1's just kind of there as like a spotter. And then, they kind of disappear, and they disappear right where this house would be. And that lines up. Multiple sources tell me that they believe that car at one point was parked between these two homes off Killen. Sharon Edwards, thank you so much for being a member for 10 months. That's so awesome. Thank you for all you do, Chris. Thank you. I appreciate the support. So if you're new to the channel...
What kind of light source are we looking at?
We don't only just cover true crime and stuff, but we do what's called control test. And I love doing control tests because that means you get to experiment. Now, I know a lot of you have seen this, so I'm just going to make it quick, but I went out and I wanted to test. So those lights, if they are coming from that area, is approximately 85 yards. It's kind of give or take because they're kind of, coming from different distances, but approximately 85 yards, give or take. And so what I did is I set up a static camera at night and I tested a bunch of different light sources.
Well, I went out and did a bunch of control tests using a flashlight, a headlamp, a cell phone, and cell phone flashlight. The lights seen in the security video are approximately 85 yards away. So I did the same thing and walked into a baseball field and conducted a test with each light source. So right away, you can see a huge issue with the flashlight.
It's got so much power that it's illuminating the ground. We don't see that in the footage. I've looked for it, and I do not see it. Not to say it couldn't be there, but I don't see it. I think the flashlight... Now, could you have like a small keychain flashlight? Maybe. I kind of wish I would have tested a smaller flashlight. But again, with the headlamp, which I would think kind of goes more closer to a smaller flashlight. But then again, I don't know. A headlamp that one's got a lot of lumens. Same thing. It illuminated the ground. And even had reflection. So see here what's above my head, not just the light itself, but notice what we call a lens flare. We don't get any lens flares coming from any of these lights that I can tell. So that's another indication that the light source is likely not as bright. Now, sometimes you get lens flares because it's kind of pointing towards the camera. But again, you can see the lens flare with the headlamp. And these lights are traveling towards us, which is why I think we see them so much. And then this is a cell phone with the screen, which it appears blue only because I have a blue background on my home screen. So if it was more kind of a white background, it would probably appear obviously white. That did look pretty good, especially if you got your brightness up all the way on your cell phone. My opinion, this is the cell phone flashlight. That looked really good to me, in my opinion. That one was just right. Okay, Dorothy, I just want to shout you out. I won't say anything else. Dorothy, just a huge shout out to you. I'm speechless right now. Thank you so much. That's awesome. Okay, so moving on. Let me know what you think in chat if that's first time seeing that, which one looks good to you. Some people think just the cell phone light itself, which I think if you had a brightness... all the way up on it, probably would line up with what we see, because they're pretty dim. Now the vehicle. Now we are going to get into the vehicle. That's today's show. But again, I just want to get the timeline out of the way first, and then we'll get into the lights. But then eventually, I don't know exactly how. I'm assuming this person just still had some of the footage, and then maybe shared a couple more clips the same way that Nick Barris did, but then sent them to a YouTuber or a Facebook group. And I think it's the latter on that. And they shared this clip with the vehicle turning on, where we see it off Stafford here, which we've learned a lot in the past few days, thanks to not just me, but we are a team. People have been sending in a lot of tips, vehicles, and we're learning so much more by the day about this vehicle. Just by this small clip, like this is only supposed to be a few seconds, even though what I've had to do is I've had to slow it down. So what you're looking at is it's sped down, to a quarter of the speed. Just to kind of show the car, because if I just played the clip normally, you just see the car turn on its lights and then it's over. For anybody that didn't know the how long that clip was. Let me make sure I just didn't miss anybody. Sharon C, thank you so much for becoming a member and supporting this channel. You are so awesome. Connie coming in with 5 Mob Crew memberships. That is so awesome. Thank you so much, Connie. If you did get gifted a membership, please thank Connie. That is so sweet of her. Fly Girl, amazing support of the channel. Chris, you are so amazing. I'm lucky to know you. Love. Thank you so much, Fly Girl. Likewise, a member now for 4 months. Thank you so much, Fly Girl. That means a lot. Okay. So one thing I want to mention in this clip, with this video that I noticed, because there's always, something that kind of sticks out that I didn't see before. So one of the things that was told to me by the sources, and I think it's in Mrs. Bobby's interview as well, she says that, this car at some point, either before or after the car turns onto Stafford, apparently from what she had heard and from what I've heard the locals talk about as well, is that apparently there's lights kind of seen moving around this vehicle, which makes sense. We see lights going towards where this vehicle was allegedly, coming up and down Kellen. And then now we have this short clip where we see the car turn on its lights. But if you slow it down and you just watch just that last little bit of the clip, there's something that, now of course this person zooms in, which, I mean, we're lucky to have footage. But man, I wish they didn't zoom in, because we might have been able to see more going on. But, can't complain. At least we have something, right? Oh, here
As
we
you
go.
can see in this short clip with the car turning its headlights on, there is a figure seen with a light source to the right of the car. This confirms what was said by the locals on how there were allegedly lights seen moving around this car while it sat on.
And it just pops up for just a brief second, just a brief second, like it was going to be coming into view. And then we don't see it because, like, again, it's just a short clip. And keep in mind, I'm sitting here trying to keep these lights where they're supposed to be. Again, this is my anchor. The floodlights are my anchor. So if I anchor them to that house, I can kind of try to figure out everything else,
Stafford.
But yeah, there's a light that just kind of pops up, almost like they had come around the house, between the two homes, and now they're kind of coming down in front of the home to the car, which is really strange. It's really strange that this car did what it did in the first place. That's I mean, you could just make a video on why, if this car did what is claimed by the locals, and again, this is multiple sources saying that they believe this car was seen going down Kellen and turning around. And then if the lights are headed between the two homes off Kellen, why would this car turn onto Stafford? It made sense when we just had Miss Bobby's interview, where she had mentioned that it was kind of sitting on the kind of intersection, and it sounded like it was just kind of on Kellen by the stop sign, and then turned on to Stafford, and then did a 3-point turn. That made, that kind of made sense. Car needs to turn around. That's where it turned around. But yeah, this, just raises a whole line of questioning. What was the purpose? Again, I think we kind of talked about this in the last live. I do wonder if they were trying to tamper with the lights or the camera.
It's believed that after the car.
Sorry, the camera that captured this stuff. I do wonder. I kind of brought up a couple of videos where I don't have a flashlight, but use like a flashlight and you direct it towards the camera itself, right? And what it does is, and you can use infrared lights where they're kind of almost to the neck, you can't see them to the naked eye, and basically they just blind the camera, right? What's it possible? Maybe they were trying to do that, because keep in mind, again, I told myself I wasn't really going to go into the cameras much, but I just want to mention this. We've talked about the cameras on Kellen Lane, at least 2 confirmed door camera or ring cameras that were knocked out. Keep in mind, these cameras are wireless. They are vulnerable to jammers. The camera that captured this stuff is wired, so it's not vulnerable to attack like a jammer, because it's wired to the router. And basically, in a nutshell, what a jammer does is it keeps sending a signal to the device telling it doesn't have Wi-Fi. And so it thinks basically the device itself is not recording anymore because it's thinking that the Wi-Fi's out, and that's what the jammer does. And then
According
our last
to my
video,
sources,
and then we'll get into the cars. But our last video that was released is the one where, now this is where it's interesting, is allegedly this is after the car had left. Now, do we know this for fact? We don't. But this is what, from the locals, they believe this is the chronological order of what happened. Which, if true, is really, kind of doesn't look good.
According to my
side.
sources, the light seen going back towards the Proudfoot's home is allegedly after the car has left. They even claim it's like they jumped over the ditch in a hurry.
And if you notice, you don't see that light more than like 2 times. Which, remember, if the light was coming towards us, the first video, right, where we see subject 2 and subject 1, if we're looking at a top-down view, right, they're kind of coming towards us, because from the Proudfoot Rogers home to the 2 homes that the lights go in between, they have to be kind of walking towards us, right? So it makes sense that we see a light source when the lights are coming this way. But if there was somebody going back to the home, we wouldn't really see the light unless they were looking back, or they weren't blocking their light source. So we only get, one little peek at them. And again, this is another clip that's like a few seconds. I did also notice that there's a light that like kind of comes out and goes back in. It's possible that this could be out of order somehow. I'm still trying to figure that out, but it's really weird. Like that's something I've recently captured, and more of my, I think like this week, that I didn't notice before. But this is one more time where, you see the light, once, and then from there it disappears. But keep in mind, the quality of footage we're seeing is like 3rd, 4th hand generation. I mean, you could tell, look at the truck, like you could tell like the quality, we're getting all this, static, more or less, this blockiness, pixelated version, because obviously it's multiple generations and not the original, which would probably show even more stuff if analyzed correctly and with the proper tools. But this is from my source saying that they heard, that they believed that they had seen somebody jumping the ditch, which was really interesting, and that this happened just as the car was leaving or after the car was left, which is really, again, we don't know 100%, but everything else that the sources have mentioned, they've all kind of lined up with something, with the video or just with what's happened in the neighborhood, like the camera situation. So keep in mind, a lot of stuff has added up, with other things that have happened around it. But that's the ditch, and then we're going to get onto the lights. But yeah, as you can see, it's and that ditch was created there. For anybody that doesn't know, that's something I learned from my sources, is this was actually created when they built this house development, so that way the backyards don't flood. So this was built so it could allow the water to run into a storm drain, I'm assuming. And so that's why the ditch was built, is so there would be no flooding. Makes sense? Okay, now moving on to the car. We're going to break down everything. I know everybody's been waiting for it. I just want to kind of get everybody on the same page. I try to bring new stuff to it or tell something new about the timeline, but So about the vehicle, from what I understand, they believe they thought they saw a sedan. And the more that we kind of do tests, again, here's another control test that I did. And the one thing that I'm just going to kind of mention and move on is, sorry, here we go. I was just trying to get to it here. The one thing from my control test with the car is that I noticed I have my car running, right? Well, my car's running. We got to assume that they didn't shut off their car, right? We got to assume that their car's running as well. So, as you can see, I have my daytime running lights on. Whereas when they kick on their lights kick on. Light and tail light both kick on, and then
while doing a control test, I learned this about the car. One of the things I was able to discover was that the suspicious car likely does not have daytime running lights, or if it does, they were turned off that night. Notice that the car is completely...
Because I doubt they would turn that car off. You know, especially if they're really only going to be there for a few minutes, why turn the car off? Especially if you're pulling off an abduction, either outside or inside. You know, you want to get in and out. So I doubt that car was turned off. I'm sure the lights were off, and either they didn't have daytime running lights, or they did and they turned them off.
Dark. Then its headlights and tail lights come on at the same time, whereas my car has my daytime running lights on, and you can see my car. I found a forum where Nissan and other Japanese cars with older models in the 2000 to late 2000 are known not to have daytime running lights. I also did an overlay and had somebody do some measurements on the curb behind where I believe the suspicious car was parked. I learned that the cuts between the curbs are 12 feet apart. By using this measurement, we can estimate that the vehicle from headlight to tail light is likely no more than 14 to 15 feet in length. Remember, multiple sources claim they believe they saw a sedan during the same night Rogers went missing. Here are some makes and models that apply to that size. Have you ever wondered what exactly you are looking at towards the area where the headlights are located? I, along with many others, believed that what was being illuminated in front of the headlights was part of the road. Well,
and this was huge. Huge shout out to Joy, right? Because this was frustrating. You know, when I did my overlay, I'm like, you know, I even had somebody out there recently, and I was like, man, do you see any divots in the road? You know, because you can tell that there's, you know, a part where the headlights don't illuminate anything. You know, I thought, well, okay, we know that roads are typically, at least some roads like this, are going to be kind of built with the center kind of like a hump, right? That way water, for anybody that doesn't know this, so the water runs off into the gutters. So obviously the center of the road's going to be a little bit higher, so you got a hump, right? And I thought, okay, well, maybe because they're on the one part of the hump, right? Because the road isn't like flat, and maybe there's like a divot in there, right? Just kind of a bad divot that the light is not illuminating. Because we can see now in the overlay, it's kind of hard to see here, but when we don't have the overlay, you can clearly see there's just nothing there. And it's like, well, man, that's weird. And again, I asked them, like, do you see any divots? And they said, no, not that. I don't know. I think you'd kind of,
if you guessed like the rest of us, you would be wrong. Thanks to a special viewer who watches the show named Joy, she did a control test with her Nissan Altima, and while watching her video...
And this was so huge. Again, show Joy some love in the chat. And Tom comes in. Happy Friday, everyone. I'm late. I hope everyone is doing good. Thanks for your amazing insight and coverage on this case. I hope all is good. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate the $5. Hope you're having a great weekend, my friend. I appreciate the $5. So with her illuminating, turning on her car, she sent this in. You know, I was really looking at her lights. And actually, I just kind of wanted to see, you know, what interacted, you know, when she kicked on the lights, right? And
video That's when something appeared to me that I never thought about before.
This is awesome.
Park it. Okay, turn them all on. Now back up.
It's during this moment here where the mystery of what we were looking at in the security footage finally came together.
Well,
It
there's the gap.
was
right
not the
there.
headlights illuminating the ground, but actually the fog, or morning dew as they call it in the South. Notice we don't see anything light up in the back or
And that was the other thing too. I'm like, man, we don't see that. You know, see how her car, we got the lights, the tail light and the headlights. Well, we don't see anything illuminated under them, right? Let me get rid of that. Let me say that one more time. Notice how the headlights illuminate the road, right? And the tail lights as well. They illuminate the road. But we do not get that. You know, this is the headlights illuminating the road here. And it's a straight line for the more or less. But we don't see that, right? I mean, you could maybe think it was this right here. But that's not it.
the front like in this video. And also, notice this part where it's like a shadow. Notice when he backs up
And
the car.
look at the graininess of it as well. And I'll obviously pull it up so you can see it much bigger. But then that hit me. I was like, oh my gosh. And then somebody after we learned that, after I put that video out, somebody in the comments had mentioned something. And so shout out to Kat, who said that might be even exhaust. Because if the car was sitting there for a bit, that may just even be the exhaust just kind of, you know, filling up the air around. And then when they, well, obviously this car doesn't back up, but still it could be the exhaust just kind of, either way, it's illuminating mist, air, fog, whatever you want to call it. And that looks, and it reacts. You got all these little dots. And it reacts the same way. And it's exactly where the headlights are at. So, again, that was awesome. I know some people think, well, God, that's not a big deal. It's a huge deal because now we know where the headlights are at. Because I couldn't really tell exactly. Anyway, it's big. Ruru, great name. Thank you so much for becoming a member. Gil, if you can, Chris, how's it GoFundMe and help bring Aidan home? Thank you so much, Gil. Yeah, I probably won't leave that up too much longer, but I do appreciate that. And if anybody donates, it's not necessary, but it is somebody that we go out. We don't just cover true crime. We go out and search for missing people. So, but yeah, if you look at that, notice how it's kind of blotchy. You know, it's kind of like it's got dots in it, especially this area. And then see how it's missing that, where I thought, oh, that's maybe a divot in the road. Yeah, that's the smog mist, whatever you want to call it, not illuminating. And that's why it looks the way it does there. Again, that was huge. It was really huge. Yeah, moisture, morning dew. It could be from the exhaust. But that really... Again, now we know that this part here is the headlight for sure. Because I was always kind of curious, is this the headlight or the fog light, you know? But now I think we know that's got to be the headlight. And if you really get a good look, you'll notice that this takes form. It's very solid right here. Whereas everything else is not. So this tells me it's most likely the headlight. And then to the C. We're going to get to the C now. Let me check my email because I had somebody that has a car like that. Anyway. Sorry, just checking. I have someone lose Elfig in here. They're the ones that pointed out the C and what that could be. And when they had mentioned it, I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, not saying where that's 100% what it could be, but oof, it's really close. For my Patreons and members have seen part of it. But now, so for those, that's what we're working on now, right? There's got to be a reason you got this C, right? Again, I know a little bit of information about the car. I know the car's been mentioned, but we're trying to figure out what kind of car. We're not just going, oh, okay, we know that there's a car. We're trying to figure out the car. I think that would be a huge help, I'm sure. And everybody's been pitching in, which is so amazing. But the C right here, like, that is so unique to me. And it is because, there's certain generations of cars, right? So you got like a Nissan Altima from 2000, forget the years now because I've been looking at so many models. Nissan Altima, it has like six generations, I think. 5, 6, at least 6 generations. And fifth generation's like from 2009 to 2014, somewhere around in there, right? Those generations typically have the same kind of headlights. Now, obviously, there's some different things that can change that. If it's like a luxury car of that version, but for the most part, they're for the most part the same. So, Loose Fig sent me something. All right. Oh, I think I was just kind of showing the headlight. So maybe it's back a little bit. Maybe I went too forward. Sorry, I might have skipped what I was trying to show you guys. Let me find it first real quick here. And then we'll go over this. There we go. There it is. There it is. All right, come back. Okay, so look at this. This came from Loose Fig. Because I'm like, man, what is that C? And now this may not be the answer. It could be something else, but I think we're on the right track, right? So let's take a look at this. Now, obviously, this is like way zoomed in, too big for it, but just kind of keep an eye on where the blinker was at, right? And as that disappears, right? Isn't that kind of wild how that fits just right? Now, obviously, that's too big, but that gets us in the right kind of right frame of mind as far as what we're looking at and what's causing that C. And that's really the headlight lamp build. And I'm not sure because I've got to see some cars because I know some cars, even the blinker light is kind of illuminated, which is something I learned to, notice today. So they're going to send me a video, so I'm kind of curious to see how that lines up. But I think what we could be seeing is either the trim of the light, you know what I mean? So basically what we can kind of say is like this will kind of cancel out a lot of headlights, if that makes sense, because there's clearly something that's not illuminating. And of course, the thing that sucks is the cars that I snag off Google, most of them are side view, right? And this car is slightly like at an angle. So it's not completely at its side, right? It's kind of, we're looking at it a little bit like this. So, so it makes it hard to overlay cars because unless I have a car that's slightly at an angle a little bit, it's going to be hard to like perfectly line something up. If that makes sense. But that gets us in the ballpark, right? There's something there that's creating this, that there. And when he sent that in, I was like, wow, man, that like gives us something to kind of look at. Because before we were just kind of focusing on the taillights and what may cause like the exclamation point. And, are we looking at something that's got, because I believe they put it in reverse before the video ends. That's just my opinion. And we may either see the brake light or even the reverse light. Well, I think the brake light which is the thing that's illuminating up here. But again, you know, what could we learn about this headlamp or, you know, headlight? Let me, I think it's the bumper. But you have a light source that's under, so is it the fog light that would be on as well? It's certainly possible. I thought too that it could be the bumper. I don't know. Like, there'd be such a unique bumper. Not to say it couldn't be, but that means if it was the bumper, it would have to be the fog lights and the headlights kicking on at the same time, because we're clearly having a
All hoping for the safe return of
sorry.
Sebastian.
We clearly have a source of light that's under, right? See, I almost think this is more the light itself, but the reason why it's a little bit hard to overlay is because we're looking at it from slightly an angle. So actually, you know, it'd be a good example to kind of show everybody. So let me pull up a let me pull up. Here we go. So notice the vehicles like this one in the driveway. Now I don't think it's that angled, right? But then we see the truck here. Even that's at not quite completely side view. We're kind of, you know, got it slightly on an angle. I think we're kind of a mix between the angle of this truck and this truck, you know, and they're not far off, right? I think one's just parked slightly, like this truck here, probably when they turned in, slightly curved to the right, maybe a little bit. This one's just like straight in. But again, I think that's the only thing that's tough about overlaying vehicles is we're looking at a vehicle that is slightly angled just a tad. I could be wrong though, but it just seems that way. But that C, it's definitely got to be something. And when that guy sent me in that that blinker, man, it fits like so perfect. It's crazy. And again, you know what's funny? Hey, Christopher, good to see you. Yeah, my 2009 Maxima come on with the fog lights under the headlights. Oh, it does come on with them. So that's why, again, when we had Joy who sent in her video, I was kind of looking for something else. And just by her sending that in, we discovered what the hell we were looking at over here, right? So who knows, you know, again, if anybody wants to send in a video that they have a sedan and may have something, I don't know, maybe with fog lights. Also, I know the guy that's got the car that we were looking at, he's going to send in it's a Nissan, I think it's a Nissan Maxima. Let me go back to his right there. There it is. No, he's got I'm sorry. No, he's got a Toyota Camry. That's a Toyota Camry, excuse me. So there's a Toyota Camry. But man, it's such a crazy how that does like fit in. But yeah. I think that's the light reflecting off the body of the car. Might have a small rear fin. Oh yeah, on the back. Yeah. Yeah, with the backlight. Yeah, I definitely think it could be a reflection. I know what you're talking about. Google Honda Civic marker light. Marker light. Oh, I see. Are you talking about that? Is that the marker light? Is that what you're talking about? Left side marker light. Okay. Okay. But obviously we're looking for something that is creating that C. I'm going to have to check my emails for a second. Give me a second. I'm just going to let this play. Oh, it is playing. Let me see if... Because someone was going to send in a video. I think they're in another part of the country, so it might be nighttime there. No, it doesn't look like they've gotten back. Oh, yeah. Amy? Yeah, I've seen that vehicle too. Yeah. It might be that one. Yeah, I know exactly. I know exactly that one, Amy. Um, yeah, I'll email you afterwards. But again, so long story short, sorry, I just get kind of pulled in different directions. Again, I mean, how we figured out what we were looking at in the first place was just by experimenting. Again, these lights in the back are interesting. You know, it's almost like this is a reverse light being separated. I think this light, I don't know if that's a marker light or if that's just a light that's coming off. That could be a marker light if that's what you're talking about. And then maybe you're talking about this being a marker light. Maybe. Not sure on that one. The QX80. I'm telling you guys, the QX80 that would be the dumbest thing to do. That's just my opinion. You know, I could be completely wrong. I doubt they're going to be use a vehicle and then be driving it around so the FBI or whoever who's eventually going to bust these turkeys that did this. I was going to use a very bad word. I had to use that anyway. Yeah, I don't think they'd be using that. If it was an inside job, I highly doubt it would be a car that would be from like an extended family member, one that hasn't been driven around a lot. And that's what I wanted to mention as well in this video. So if anybody's wondering, okay, let's say we're getting closer and closer to the vehicle, right? Because we've been doing a lot of research. I think I've kind of narrowed it down. We know it's a sedan. We believe it's a sedan. Most likely a foreign Japanese model, because they're more notorious for not having daytime running lights, or if they do, you can turn them off. I did some measurements. Of course, they're approximate. They're not exact. I would say this car is no more than 14 to 15 foot long, which is the average size of a sedan is 14 feet. Sorry, there's people honking. What else? The tail lights, again, I think, I'd still like to do some more experiments with the tail lights to kind of figure out. But exclamation could be coming from either the reverse light is in the brake light or it's separate, but they're both right there. But I don't think they have to be vertical. When we first saw this, I thought, oh man, they have to be vertical taillights. But after doing my car, which has got more kind of oval brake lights on the side, they showed up, when I darkened it, they popped up like exclamation points. So I'm not sure if we exactly have to go with vertical taillights. Because, in the beginning I thought, it could be like a Cadillac Escalade, because they've got the vertical tail lights, even kind of go up, but I don't think that anymore. Especially that's why you do control tests, because you learn so much. Again, like I thought this was the road, but this is just mist, fog, smog, whatever you want to call it, being illuminated by either the headlight itself and or the headlight and fog light. Which now kind of looking at it again, it always changes when you look at it. Here's another second theory. What if this is the headlight right here, right? But then this is the fog light, which actually illuminates the smog and whatever mist, whatever you want to call it. Except it's, I don't know. It's so frustrating because the mass of it right here is so like thick. Like that is the light housing. Like that is the housing of the light. And then that's what's being illuminated. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, we kind of started with the backlight, Lisa, and then kind of went back to the front. But yeah, we kind of jumped around. Yeah, now keep in mind, I want to reiterate this again. Now you're not wrong. Again, like I said, this is like going back to day one. So everybody's a person of interest. Seth Rogers, everybody, right? It's day one, in my opinion, right? We're looking at everything. We're going back, and new eyes, whatever, however you want to phrase it. And of course, that's what led me down this path, is to look at the lights and realize that, it wasn't where they originally thought they were. And then that just led down a deeper rabbit hole and much more. But yeah, I agree with that general synopsis is, yeah, you would want to look at the extended family, their dogs, their neighbor's dog, and keep going. The other thing, I got sidetracked because I read a comment. As we get closer to the possible make and model of this car, some would say, well, is that a bad idea to get too close and then spook the person that actually owns this car? And this would be my answer. It has been over 6 months now. And if the FBI thing, if they hadn't destroyed it before, or let's say destroyed it, but gotten rid of it before the FBI got involved, I guarantee you they've tried to attempt to do something, or it's already done something. They've done something with it since the FBI put out that reward and said they're getting involved. So I don't think it hurts to put pressure. You got the FBI, the reward going up weekly, and Dog the Bounty Hunter coming in. I say put all the pressure you can right now on these guys. And so, again, because I think whatever happened to this car, they probably have already attempted to do a long time ago, in my opinion. Now, the best thing is if it was, let's say, an inside job, there would be records, right? If it was owned by a family member, you'd be able to look it up. They owned this car at one point. Oh, look, here's the car. They have programs that take security footage, CCTV footage, ring camera footage. It specifically helps illuminate cars and license plates. You could actually even get that program. I'm sure probably they even have something better, but there's a program if I wanted to spend, I think it's like $100 a month or something. It's crazy. But it helps to it's AI enhancement. It's basically AI enhancement, but it works with the footage, and it's made for surveillance and for identifying cars. You can just Google it and look it up. So they do have that, and I'm sure they've ran a lot of that stuff, but yeah. Let me get to chat here, and then I'll finish up by a couple more things. Tracy Allen, is it warm enough for dew in Tennessee in February? Either way, dew, air, smog. Remember, that car's probably been sitting there for a few minutes, so, it's the exhaust, because that's something that was mentioned in my chat or in the comments of the video I put out, and I was like, oh, shit, that's it. it's got to be one of those things. But yeah, that's definitely something we thought about. CBC, thank you so much for becoming a member and supporting this channel. I am posting for the first time tonight. Thank you for all your research on this case and others. You truly care. Thank you so much. Frugal Boomer Life. Great name. Appreciate it. There is a 4-door Mini Cooper in the extended family. Do they have running lights? Ooh, I don't know, Ginger Girl. Good question. Jesse Carter, thank you for all you do. Chris, thank you so much, Jesse. Of course, we learn new things every day. Sometimes we don't get as much traction as maybe the day before, or we get stuck on something. But again, each day or week, I feel like we're learning new things. And just to go back to this fog thing, like that was huge, because that kind of can point me in the right direction of where those headlights are situated. And then, yeah, still that seat thing, we're still working on. I was hoping I could get the video, but that's okay. The person that has that car said they'd send in a video possibly, but of course there's no pressure. But if you do have a sedan and you'd maybe want to get a slight angle of your car, if it's like a Nissan Altima, Maxima, Toyota Camry in the mid 2000 to mid teens, 2000 teens, just kick on the lights at night. I'd be more than happy to overlay them again. It's not necessary, but the two people that sent me in footage, we learned a lot from, so who knows what else we could learn. But unfortunately, I don't have a sedan, so it's like I can only learn so much from my car, right? Oops. I love this name, Crafting with Sassy Chicks 101. That's awesome. Great YouTube channel name. That's awesome. Thank you so much for becoming a member and supporting this show. I'm sorry. That is a great name. All right, I'm checking one more time because I know. Dorothy again. Thank you so much. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that. I know that vehicle. I can't tell you how many times. That vehicle, the Q Xfinity. I'm sorry, I've seen it a million times. In my opinion, I don't think it wouldn't be very smart. And you got to think how, if it was an inside job, how smart they were to pull it off this far. I think that would be pretty dumb, in my opinion, for them to use something that they're seen driving around with. I think if it was family, it would be a car that, again, would be extended family, and that car was probably never driven ever again, in my opinion. It was probably used for that thing, maybe sold or scrapped, junkyard, whatever. I highly doubt you'd see that thing on the road. But that's just my opinion. Honestly, me coming in with $1.99. Thank you so much. Email is down in the description, and it's also in the chat sometimes as well. Yeah, that's why you needed to find out how hard the car is from the ground. Yeah. And that it's kind of hard because I really don't have like a ground to base it off of. So yeah, it is very true, TJ. Yeah, thank you, Donna. I do appreciate you sending me. I promise you it's not that. We've looked at that. But I do appreciate everybody trying to pitch in. Again, just remember the basics. Multiple sources believe they saw a sedan. So think sedan. Well, more than likely a foreign sedan. I'm trying to give you hints here, guys. I'm trying to give you hints. Now, again, I don't know the exact make or model of the car. So I'll just tell you that right now. But I have some ideas, but I have to kind of get there first, right? So I know I don't know crap about cars. I know I've learned more in the last 2 weeks than I really care to know, but it is fun kind of working together though, because it has been a team effort, really. Test your car left side on curb for second. Test your car. Oh, test my car on a curb for second exclamation point. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah, again, if it's coming at an angle a little bit, again, this is where we think the car was at, right? Again, it's kind of general. And then I use the cuts in this to kind of, and that's 12 feet. So if we kind of go with what 12 feet is behind the car, and if it's not too far from the car, then it should be fairly not too far from the distance, or length, I'm sorry, that it's 14 to 15 feet at most. So I think with that, I think we're going to finish up here, guys. I was hoping to get a video that I could share, but unfortunately it didn't get sent in, but that's okay. There's the next time. As I said, we're trying to do what we can and not just jibber jabber about, like, you know, the drama and stuff. We're just trying to go with the facts and the evidence that we have. And again, this has been kind of a team effort. But anyway, I think that's about it. I mean, I put the hints out there. I mean, it's a foreign sedan car, likely a foreign sedan car. I mean, that is kind of the majority of the hint. I mean, I've been giving them out all day, so they're there. Again, they don't know 100%, but it's just a few things that they believe they could have seen, but, you know, again, it's nighttime. We don't know 100%. Alan, thank you so much for coming in with the $10 super sticker. You're amazing. Appreciate it. For the members, one more thing. For the members and Patreons, I've been getting the pets in. Unfortunately, I need some more pets. So if you're a member or Patreon, please send some pictures in. I need a few more. But before we go, this is, I think this is Simba and Mama Simba. Katie and Harry, I think. Or Caddy and Harry, I think. Daisy. We got Max. More Max. He loves the camera. Miss Millie watching me. Riley, Fathead, and Butterball. But yeah. Oh, Yabba Dabba Doo fur babies. Oh, that's awesome. We'll leave it with there. Oh my God, how cute is that? A cat with a pacifier. Oh, that's awesome. I'm a huge cat fan. So if you can, send some pet pics in. Mods too, same. So anyway, because I need to make my pet outro and I just need a few more pets. So if you want to send those in, it's for members of Patreons only. It's kind of a perk, but we could use a few more. If you want Angel Mom, I may sneak one in, but it really is for the members of Patreons. But if you do send me one and I accidentally squeeze it in, it just happens to squeeze in there. So, but don't tell anybody. All right, guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Sunday, members live, and then keep an eye on things. If anybody wants to send in tips or nighttime video of their cars, I'll see what I can do to examine and see if we can figure something out. Again, we learned a lot in the last one, so. But I appreciate everybody taking the time, and we'll be back Sunday and then Monday. And then I usually do videos in between those days. So for those that are wondering, we go live Monday, Wednesday, Friday, usually 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. So, all right, guys, thank you so much for the support. If anybody sent me a PayPal and I missed it, or Venmo, thank you in advance, and I'll thank you in the next show. And for that special someone that did send a PayPal, oh my gosh, thank you so much.